Hey, everybody. You know what? I just realized I should have had some sleigh bells going on tonight. Hey, welcome to tonight's IncrediChat, brought to you by Incredicon, the Hudson Valley's family-friendly comic and pop culture fest. I'm Mike, as always, and welcome to the show. Tonight, we're going to have a little bit of fun. We have a return guest, but we'll get to him in 1 second. Those of you who are watching, I just want everybody to quickly know that we have, hey, Hunter Murray. Welcome back, Hunter Murray. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to us tonight. I just wanted to share out, Sarah Jean, great. We're going to talk Christmas cartoons tonight. Just give me 1 second there, my friend. But I want everybody to see just also what we have coming up this weekend. If you're on the East Coast and are a fan of holidays, go visit our buddy Michael Grazia over at Christmas Con, which is over in Edison, New Jersey. A lot of great guests. Melissa Joan Hart's going to be there. The cast of Sabrina, Danica McKellar from the Wonder Years, and all these great soap opera stars and stars from your favorite Hallmark Christmas movies. So check that out if you are here in the East Coast. But let's go over to the nice, sunny West Coast, if you will, and visit a good friend of ours who's back tonight to talk animation. And he works in the cartoon industry. We've had him on before talking Johnny Quest and Tom and Jerry and some other great things he's worked on, Animaniacs. Welcome to tonight's show, the return of Televisions Lance Falk. Welcome back, Lance.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Hi, Mike.
Hello.
Good to see you.
It's always good to have you, and it was probably like January when we had you on here last, so it's been like almost a year.
I've done 3 of these with you guys, and this is the first time my Zoom has worked. So,
folks, watch tonight. Here he is in person.
Yeah, it took a new computer, but there you go. So
it's great though. And like I was just saying to everybody, you have such a quick, and we can quickly just go through this for the folks who are just joining us for the first time tonight, and seeing you for the first time. Just quickly go through your credentials of all the great animation that you've been working on and worked on.
Well, I've been doing this since 1986 professionally. 10 years at Hanna-Barbera on lots and lots of stuff. And then I jumped over to Warner Brothers around the time Tiny Toons and Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain, and did a lot of things there. And then I ricocheted back and forth, mainly as a designer. But I got to write a little bit. I got to write some 90s Johnny Quest, some SWAT Cats, and a pretty successful Scooby-Doo direct-to-video called Alien Invaders.
Yes, we talked. Good one.
And working backwards a little bit. Today is actually my first day on Rick and Morty, I helped him out a little bit with the season ender last year because it was very heavy, and so I started on that today. Last week, for the last half a year, I was on the sister show Solar Opposites, doing prop design, character cleanup, background cleanup, effects. And then before that, I spent 6 years working on preschool shows on Curious George, which is airing on Peacock right now. And so if you have real little ones, they're doing really well and they're real cute. And we did something like 200 shorts. So, those are a few things.
No, and again, Curious George to Rick and Morty. I mean, like, what a world of difference, right? So you've done it all. You've been on everything. Sarah Jean writes, "Hey, Lance, the king of animation." I mean,
oh my God. Maybe the jester. I don't know, but
but again, you've been in the business. Joe Ryan, how you doing, Joe? We're gonna give you a plug out there too. Hunter Murray loves Curious George. Listen, you've worked on it all, so you really do have quite a diverse portfolio, if you will, in the world of animation. And that's kind of why, like, I wanted to bring you on tonight, because you're one of our friends who works over in animation, and at this time of the year there is so much great animation that is just, and I've been watching, like, I have my stack of DVDs here, and there are the normal ones that everybody watches year to year, but there are a lot of hidden gems that people either don't know about or have forgotten about, just because we live in a world where network television doesn't repeat things every year like they used to.
Right.
Or, it's just, they just got lost in the shuffle. So let me just quickly ask you, I'm working in animation growing up. What was probably maybe one of the most standout holiday specials, visually, storytelling wise, that really sticks with you?
Well, for it's not really surprising that I think the original version of Grinch is just like the greatest thing ever. Yeah. You've got Chuck Jones really at his peak. You've got him blended with Dr. Seuss. You've got great voice work in it. It's just incredibly funny and touching and imaginative. And I was always captivated by it. If you're asking for like a favorite thing, that would have to be it. Later on, I worked with a fellow named Don Morgan, who unfortunately passed a few years ago. And Don was one of the best natural artists I ever met, kind of an Takamoto level talent. And turns out he was one of the layout designers on the Grinch with Chuck.
Oh, wow.
And it was, for me, that was like meeting royalty, like a real rock star. So,
yeah. Joe Ryan says Chuck Jones. He loves Chuck Jones' work, and he's one of my inspirations. And I guess a lot. I mean, you work in animation. I guess like Chuck Jones, Friz Freleng, McKinson, like all these are the legends. I mean, we can talk all the guys over Disney. There's so many.
Yeah.
You mentioned
before that, you have Clampett, you have Tex Avery,
Yep.
And I think it's hands down the funniest stuff. I think Chuck Jones maybe for me, my taste, the funniest cartoons I ever saw in my life. But I like that a lot. I really like. I mean, there are no surprises here. The Rankin Bass stuff,
of course,
is terrific. The Peanuts special, the Peanuts Christmas, and so I'm not giving you anything new or newer, but I have a lot of affection for all that. My Christmas one that I can tell you is when we were on Animaniacs / Pinky and the Brain. There were 4 units. And Rusty Mills, the head of head of all of it, got to direct one himself, and he got the Pinky and the Brain Christmas special.
That's a great one.
He didn't have his own crew, so I was flattered that he cherry-picked me and cherry-picked a different designer and to work on that kind of on the side. And so I did the props on that, and it won an Emmy, one of my few Emmys. So you remember at the end, the Pinky gave the Brain the world. He gave him a little globe.
Yes, I was just going to talk about that.
I did that, and I did the Noodle Noggin doll that was going to take over the world and that kind of thing. So,
you mentioned that, and as you're sitting here talking about the Pinky and the Brain Christmas, like I'm just thinking about that particular scene at the end where Pinky does give the Brain the world.
That's a really good one.
And I mean, it shows you the relationship of those characters, and like, I just saw an article today. Is Pinky really the smart one? And I mean, that has been argued time and time again. But and I did not know that about you. So I mean, you were part of that wonderful scene from that. And you mentioned Animaniacs. Animaniacs really did some strong holiday specials. Like one of my favorites in particular that I just mentioning that the bits that they did was the musical one with Santa's Name Has No L. I think that's hilarious. That's hilarious. And then
and Yakko's Wish, the movie is
you read my mind, because I was just going to talk about that. And now, did you work on that one when you were at Animaniacs?
No. Like I said, we had 4 full units. And that's cute. And so the odds are 1 in 4 of me having worked on something. And that was for about a 2-year period. So
and again, it kind of just Noel. So someone just wrote someone's wacko's wish. Yeah, no, I mean, again, just memorable cartoons, Animaniacs, of course, but then just the holidays. I want to share one, and again, you mentioned working at Hanna-Barbera, and I know, we mentioned like Iwu Takamoto earlier. This one is kind of a hidden gem, and I'm sure you've seen it, and the story behind it is great. By Tony Benedict. It's coming up now. Santa and the Three Bears. Are you familiar with this one?
Yeah. I remember seeing it way back when. Yeah, it's very charming.
Yeah, and the one of the things that I thought was really interesting about this, and this is like out in the public domain now, and I talked to Tony about this a while ago. You look at the style of this, and for me as a kid, and I know you're a big Hanna-Barbera fan, I looked at this, and you can see in that picture there, that's totally Hanna-Barbera. Even though it wasn't Hanna-Barbera, Tony Benedict, one of the like founding designers of a lot of those characters from Hanna-Barbera. It was, to me, it's a Hanna-Barbera special, and I know he did that back in like the late 60s, early 70s, and that really was one of the first. I don't want to say crowdsourced things, but he did that with like a lot of other people throwing money at it. There was not a big studio behind it. That was an independent project that he did. Which at that time, unless you had a big studio, that really was unheard of.
Right.
Right. And Sarah Jean's here talking about Hanna-Barbera, right? So, and I know you're a big Hanna-Barbera fan. You've got all those great box sets, folks. If you ever get a chance to go onto Lance's Facebook page and check, he redid all these great covers for the Hanna-Barbera DVD collections, which are amazing. And have you done any new ones since we've last talked? I know, gosh, you had a few.
No, I've actually been too busy. I was doing those kind of during the depths of COVID, where I wouldn't even leave my house for like a year. And now I'm kind of getting out.
Gotcha.
I took a good bite off the Warner Brothers set, and then to just briefly explain it, I make my own DVD cover art, so I can fit a lot of things in a case. So I kind of do an original design that will hold 10 discs, and so they fit on the shelf like library books, and they look real. Yeah. Everything matches, and it's very anal retentive, and a lot of times, frankly, I don't like the real covers because they're overly airbrushed and don't really, in my mind, represent the spirit of the show all that well. They're put together by art departments, not artists, and in a lot of cases. And so I just wanted to look a certain way. So for Johnny Quest, I wanted to use a Doug Wildey drawing on the cover, So, or Space Ghost, I wanted to use Alex Toth, that kind of thing. Go there.
So let's talk a little bit about Hanna-Barbera, because again, their first foray into it, and I know it's on one of your box set collections, was I guess it's called Have Yourself a Merry Flintstone or something like that, which is the first iteration of Fred, filling in for Santa on Christmas Eve.
Right. Well, the original run of Flintstones had a Christmas episode in the body of the season, and I would give people a homework assignment, if they have access to that material, is to watch the episodes around that Christmas episode. Yeah, watch a few episodes ramping up to it. Watch the Christmas one, and then a few after, and you'll notice something really bizarre. In one, it is Fred has his Fred personality right up until that episode where I'll burn, and he's kind of crabby and explosive, and he has a soft heart, but he's really a combative character. And you hit that Christmas episode, and he's just really sweet and gentle the whole time. It's like a different guy, and he cares a great deal, and he's very patient, and he sings the Christmas song, and
he sings a couple of songs.
Yeah, and it's not like Fred at all, but it's it's episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's Fred, Episode 6 is Christmas. He's this totally different guy. Episode 7, he's back to being Fred again. So it's really, it's almost hilarious to me, that it's such a gear shift in him. Yeah. And of course, and I'm not the only person that thought of this joke, of course, but so cavemen are celebrating Christmas.
Ow. I was going to say we came into that.
What's wrong with this picture? Doesn't it say BC everywhere, kind of thing. And of course, you're not supposed to really think about that too much, but it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny when you think about it. But the intended audience for those shows is never going to put 2 and 2 together like that. Of course. And that's fine. And I think a big problem is when people overthink things and so they limit themselves. And so, of course you ought to do a Flintstone Christmas special. It's a real family perennial, and every family perennial should do some kind of holiday show at some point. But it's also hilarious.
Well, and it's funny too. And so you're talking about inconsistent, and I know there's some other things in there too. Like you're mentioning Fred singing the song. I just watched this the other night and we can talk about this one too. They did this was the last. Yeah. Probably one of the last. This is probably like Henry Corden and Gene Vanderpyle's last Flintstone Fred, but the episode Christmas Flintstone is one of the features on there, and it's on the regular box sets as well from the show. But he's doing that song Dino the Dinosaur, right? Mm-hmm. So first of all, like he calls the kids over. He's like, "Let's tell the story of Dino the Dinosaur." Like these kids are like, "Okay, great." That was Dino the Dinosaur. And then like, do you notice in that scene, Dino is like massive in size too?
Yeah.
That iteration of Dino. But then the other thing, which is, and I read something about this too. There's like a little bit of a shameless plug that Hanna-Barbera had put in there too, because if you notice, and they redid this when they did a Flintstone Christmas in '77. Fred, one of the gifts that Fred's throwing out of the sled are Pebbles dolls.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So, and that was the big thing when the birth of Pebbles was, like, oh, let's sell dolls, and was it Tyco, I think, is the one that had the license at the time. So everybody had Pebbles Flintstone. So it's like, why not? Fred's going to throw out little baby dolls of his daughter, I guess. To all the kids on Christmas.
It's surreal, and things that would be, they would overthink it now and not do it.
Yeah.
So I kind of like oddities like that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, and just watching the animation in that episode in particular, and I mean, I'm sure they were not the first ones that did this, and certainly they were not the last. But I was watching, like, in the opening scene where you see Fred and Barney in downtown in the city of Bedrock. You're watching the snowflakes. I found myself for a minute or so just watching the snowflakes, because you see how, with each scene, even though the animation itself is changing, they're using the same layover for the snow.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It'd be like one S just constantly going down. But that was interesting. That was Hanna-Barbera, though, too, anyway. Yeah.
Well, they're criticized for simplifying things, but you wouldn't have had any TV shows, any animated TV shows at all, unless they were, able to make them, with a third the drawings or a fifth drawings or whatever it is. So you got to forgive it.
Well, and again, Hanna-Barbera, they came from the world of theatrical animation with Tom and Jerry, and they really changed the game for television animation.
Yeah.
And everything that we have now. I mean, the game has changed drastically even from what they did now, because everything is so much easier on the computers. Right. So we had a question. Oh, go ahead.
I was saying, well, the big way it's changed, of course, is just streaming and all these little companies that each produce their own shows, and that you have access 24/7 to almost everything. And when I was growing up, it was 3 networks. It was a really hard rule. And cartoons that was Saturday morning, and you can't even tell like a 10-year-old that. They'd almost never believe you. like, well, if you want to watch this show you like, you'd have to get up at 7 in the morning on Saturday and watch it.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. It was an event. Like I remember, I mean, again, probably much like yourself, I was a big dork. I wanted to watch all these cartoons, and God forbid, like, I overslept, or, I had a little league game or something for school, or we were going someplace, and it's like, oh, you know what? I missed Captain Caveman today. What am I going to do? Because,
Yeah.
and like you said, just streaming in these 24-hour networks, and, going into this whole conversation about, like, especially holiday specials, right? And it's even for some films that, were staples growing up, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, like for a lot of, and still to this day it is, but for a lot of families, like that night that Rudolph is on, like the world stops. Everybody is home watching Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I don't, and again, CBS still airs it. I don't think people do that anymore, because it's like, oh, we have it on DVD. I don't think it's on streaming anywhere, but it's like, it loses. I think it loses something when you can just watch Rudolph or Frosty whenever.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Like you could buy it, or it's available through streaming, and then you never watch it, because you can watch it anytime. So there's no urgency about it.
Yeah.
Right. So
you just you lose it. We have a question here. We were talking Flintstones before, and I know you were working, and you started in the '80s at Hanna-Barbera. Somebody wants to know about Henry Corden, Mel Blanc, and Gene Vanderpyle. Do you have any cool stories with them? Did you get to meet them?
I met. It's funny. I met Henry Corden at a Costco and knew who he was and chatted him up a little bit. Gene, because this sounds a little weird, but it wasn't because I was drawing. But before I was drawing at Hanna-Barbera, I would dress up in a Fred Flintstone costume for parades and things and events for the company. And those guys would show up at those things. So that's kind of how I met Gene briefly once, and Janet Waldo briefly once. I actually chatted up Don Messick a few times. And Don did such a great answering machine thing for me as Dr. Quest, and I had music mixed in. Lance will be back as soon as he can. We've taken him back in time to fight Dr. Zinn, or whatever it was. And I had to take it off the phone because I get hang-up calls over and over and over and over. And I come home and the message machine was like full because people would, you've got to hear this, and they hear the message and hang up. And it became a real, like, going through all these hang-ups. And I just, well, it's too good. And I have it on micro cassette somewhere. I don't know, but
that's great stuff.
This is Dr. Benton Quest of the Quest Research Center. Lance isn't available to take your call at the moment. Johnny, Race, and I have taken him back in time to fight the nefarious Dr. Zinn. And he will return your call as soon as we get back. I hope. And the music's all behind it, and it's really well done. And so Don did that for me, and that was really
nice. That is awesome. Now, I got to go back because you mentioned this now. So you said you dressed up as Fred Flintstone. I did not know this.
Well,
what happened there?
I started at Hanna-Barbera not as an artist, but in the stock boy. I was flipping water bottles and punching holes in animation paper. I did that for about a year before I was able to get into the art department as a trainee. But I go to malls and parades and things dressed like Fred Flintstone and Huckleberry Hound, and trying to think who else I wore.
Now, when you're saying like Fred Flintstone, you wore like the big head on you and stuff too, right? You didn't.
Oh, like, yeah, with this giant fiberglass head,
right.
Real heavy. And so I did mainly Dino. That was the third one I wore. So I'd wear Dino, Fred, or Huckleberry Hound. And then Mia Roberts, who's still a good friend of mine, really tall girl, like a head taller than me. She's the daughter of Joe Barbera's secretary. And Mia would be Scooby-Doo because she was like the right height. So Mia and I would go to all these events and things. And I told the story the other day, but so I can't really get into it too much. But I was at a mall as Huckleberry Hound, and these kind of gangster kids were harassing Betty Rubble. And I ran and I did a flying kick, and I sent the guy down the hallway wearing a Huckleberry Hound.
As Huckleberry Hound.
Yeah. Yeah. And the security was coming in, so they couldn't really do anything. They hustled him out of there. But, I was young and skinny and athletic, and I ran and I jumped in the air, and he had a foam foot about that big, and I planted it like right in his chest. And he just went down that mall, that freshly waxed mall floor, and his buddies hustled him out of there. And I'm thinking, like, I probably ruined his life, because they got to be teasing him about that. You can't be a tough gang kid and like, hey man, that blue dog kicked your ass, the cartoon dog. So it probably ruined his entire life. We'll never know.
That's so funny. And you mentioned Huckleberry Hound, and I mean, definitely, again, talking holiday staples, and you said you were there around the early 80s, right?
Yeah.
So early 80s.
Well, I started as an artist in 86.
Yeah. So the 80s, they did not one but two Yogi Bear Christmas specials, which again, if I'm sure you've seen them, no, completely different. Like, if there's to be a Yogi Bear multiverse, I think that's I've read stories about this, the second one. But I mean, again, another Christmas staple that people forget about is Yogi's First Christmas. And
right.
Back in the early 80s, people, and again, I guess the late 70s, the 80s, that was really like that heyday of that real like Hanna-Barbera. Like, I don't know what it was, but there was just something about Hanna-Barbera cartoons in the 70s and early 80s. And Yogi and the gang in particular. And that was like, I remember when that was on as a kid, that was the television event, because that wasn't one night. They split that up over like 5. That was a syndicated film, a special. Right. I know they packaged it up to 2, but you had to tune in every day to see what was going on. Someone just said, I love Yogi's First Christmas. I mean, that was really in the early days of syndication that Hanna-Barbera were playing with something like that.
Yeah.
And again, you had all your, the main Hanna-Barbera staples. I don't know why Quick Draw wasn't in there. He should have been in there, but.
Well, I don't know if that was before they started having that trouble with a cartoon character with guns or hitting people in the head with a guitar.
But then but that was before Treasure Hunting. El Kabong was in there.
Well, maybe I'm wrong. They had such a big stable of characters.
Yeah. And maybe a little bit from when you were there. And that was really like the first time we saw like a core Yogi group. We had Yogi's Gang back in the 70s, which was really the first like team up show, if you will. And he had a little bit of everybody in there. But by the time we got to Yogi's First Christmas, and then into the other Christmas special, but then Treasure Hunt, and then the Spruce Goose movie, and a couple other things, like it was always Yogi and Huck. Snag was there. Augie Doggy and Doggy Daddy. Quick Draw. Once in a while you threw Snooper and Blabber in. Like, maybe maybe you don't know, like, what was it about that core group? Why wasn't McGill in there? Why wasn't Wally in there? Because it was an interesting mix of characters.
I would say that, like, Joe had particularly he had favorite characters, and Yogi was a big favorite character of his. Mm-hmm. He just really I think related to him and connected to him, because Yogi was a lot like Joe. He was a real fast talking kind of hustler guy, very lovable. In my pantheon, like, Huckleberry Hound's kind of the lead guy, because he's more of an everyman.
Yeah.
But Joe puts his foot down about really loving Yogi Bear, as his guy. And his name's on the sign, not mine. So
I see. I didn't know that Joe had that love for Yogi. So,
yeah, for sure. For sure.
So, and that's why it was. I mean, and I guess, again, going back to Hanna-Barbera days, I mean, Scooby's always been a gold mine for that. That from watching Scooby and then working on Scooby, But in regards to some of these other Hanna-Barbera characters, I mean, the Flintstones, I'm surprised there's not much more they've done with the Flintstones over the years. I know there's something new coming, but then, like even the Jetsons were hot for like a minute, and then like people, and there's a kid at school has a backpack with the Jetsons, and I go to him, I'm like, do you even know who those characters are? Why do you have a backpack with the Jetsons in 2021?
Right.
But yeah, like you said, there's such a huge staple of Hanna-Barbera characters that are out there in the world,
Yeah.
So
well, at this time, and I won't even say it as a criticism, I'll just say it as a fact. Warner Brothers is really only interested in pursuing Scooby-Doo things because it's been a proven quantity, and whenever they drift off the reservation a little bit, doesn't do quite as well. Yeah. And so they get back to Scooby. And you could say the same thing about Batman. And,
I think we talked about this before, like
all the DC stuff. And to be fair, listen, I'm a fanboy. I want to see everything. I have favorites that aren't their favorites. But the fact is, when Bruce Timm and company made all those direct-to-video movies, and they were like doing Batman, and they tried a Green Lantern because there was a Green Lantern movie coming out, and it's just as good as any of those, and it's certainly better than a live-action Green Lantern movie, God knows. It didn't do as well, didn't do nearly as well, so the suit said, I guess we're in the Batman business, and I understand that. I wish it weren't so, but I understand it.
Yeah, no, it's all driven by the dollar. That's the main thing.
And you could say that about Scooby-Doo. They know when they do Scooby-Doo directed movies, they sell a certain amount, and that's a very acceptable amount. And when they try other things, they don't do as well. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and like and they like, and I'm sure with Batman, I know for Scooby, as a matter of fact, like, and when were doing Cyber Chase, you probably knew this too. Is like like these Scooby movies are like being done 2-3 years in advance. So like Frank Welker, Matthew Lillard, they're recording Scooby-Doo movies now, or TV series that are going to be on in the next 2 or 3 years, just because
absolutely
it's just such a constant goldmine. Warner Brothers knows that they can do 2 Scooby directed DVDs a year, plus a new series every year. And, so I'm sure from like the actor standpoint, it's just like, holy crap, like what am I even working on? I'm just reading Shaggy today. I don't know when it's going to be out, but here's the story.
It's amazing. And I mean, it's, boy, if I were king of the world, I would, we'd be doing a lot of different things, but they know what they're doing. So.
So I'm gonna issue this challenge to you live here tonight, right? If you were king of the world, right, and we're sitting here talking about holiday specials or holiday episodes of cartoons, Hanna-Barbera in particular, right? Yeah. So never done. What do you think would be a fantastic Johnny Quest holiday episode?
Well, God, you'd have to do Halloween, right?
We want to do the Quests wouldn't do anything at Christmas. I mean, Halloween. It'll go awry for them during the holiday season.
Johnny Quest Christmas. I don't know. Like their stories aren't particularly festive, and
there has to be some joy in their life.
Something. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll think about it. and the best idea will hit me at 3 a.m, and I'll like, oh God.
But now you can get to go pitch that to Warner Bros. I listen. I see Bandit, maybe with a little Santa hat on there, like tugging or chasing around the tree or something like that, getting into some kind of mischief.
I would go deeper into the library, and I do probably like Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossibles.
Ooh,
as a Christmas special, and use those characters and their band at the end. They can play Christmas songs and team them up, and that kind of thing. That's probably my inkling would be to do something like that. Yeah. So I actually do Krampus Scooby-Doo story.
Yeah,
You know?
I'm surprised. You know, you and I were talking beforehand. I was just talking about like courage and stuff like that, and like I'm surprised, like even with courage, like Krampus is like that kind of character that would have been on
Yeah.
the show. Like Scooby, they haven't done anything with Krampus like we have like the monster snowman. Like I
Yeah.
think they've done that 2 or 3 times already. You know, and it's like okay, well, but yeah, Krampus, like that's like a given. I know that in the mid '80s, one of the iterations of Scooby, they did like a take on A Christmas Carol, and they had like
Mhm.
the Ghost of Christmas Past. That was one, and there was no who wasn't in there. Velma, Fred came back, but no Velma. Velma wasn't there, which is strange. I don't know what the hell they did with the gang at that point. The gang was interchangeable at that point in time.
They were trying things. Yeah. You know.
Flim Flam, we'll say that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, wow, I think Johnny Quest it would just slow down the gunfire, you know. so that's kind of not who I'm thinking of. But and Tom and Jerry doing a Nutcracker thing, that was a great idea.
Yeah.
You know, that worked extremely well. So yeah, the weird thing about me, Mike, is I kind of have an affection for the underdog characters. I don't mean underdog specifically, but for the Frankie Juniors, for Doom Patrol and Metal Men, if they were DC stuff. My favorite Jack Kirby comic is probably Commandy. You know, so I like all these little not the headliner guys, and then not even the B guys, but probably the C characters are kind of my favorite. Marvel had a comic book called Kill Raven, where it was like a sequel to War of the Worlds they did in the 70s. And that's one of my favorite comics of all time. And it's not that I don't like the mainstream things, but boy, those Alan Moore Swamp Things.
Yes, those are good. Those
Jonah Hex. I just like that oddball stuff, and that carries over to comic or to cartoons.
Yeah.
So when you're asking me about, I mean, Johnny Quest isn't really considered a headliner in the way that Scooby is or Yogi is or whatever, and those characters are more conducive to a Christmas thing. But when the Warner's guys are doing Batman, then they did Superman, I thought what they should do is just do 65 Wonder Woman, so then just do 65 Green Lantern, Green Arrows, and just build that out. And so you have this whole body of work with all the main characters, and and always do Justice League, you know, at all times, like Saturday Night Live. You just always do it, and sometimes it's, you know, it ebbs and flows, but it's almost an obligation to do that thing. And
I like that idea. You know, people, and you know, talking about those animated shows, you're absolutely right. Like, I mean, they're definitely off balance, but that really would have been an interesting thing to do, is do like just a handful of each character. You know, so you always have those independent stories, but then you're always making new Justice League. That really would have been.
Yeah. And the direct-to-video movies, they do these DC spotlights, so you get these really good little nuggets. These like one-off
shorts, right?
Yeah, and they're. I just saw Blue Beetle one the other day. I thought was really good. So they kind of pick a minor character and do a short with him, and I tend to like those even more than the main feature. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, and you know, you're talking about like some of those I don't want to say C-list, D-list characters, but you mentioned like Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossibles, and we were talking too beforehand about some of the comic books. You mentioned Steve Rude. Steve Rude worked on the Future Quest comic book that DC did.
That's right.
And I mean, you're talking about like some of those characters getting the spotlight there.
Yeah, well, he did that. He did that amazing Birdman story.
Yeah,
you know, multi-parter. Yeah, that's the kind of oddball stuff I like, and I would make an argument for it where Kevin Feige doing the live action Marvel movies, where DC just keeps making Batmans with worse actors playing Batman, and Kevin Feige made a star out of Ant-Man, and he made a star out of Guardians of the Galaxy, and and these characters that hardly anyone knows out there in the real world.
I still don't think people know the Eternals, by the way.
Well,
tough
am I going on record? Like, I think the MCU is the greatest, and I've said it before.
Yeah.
Eternals for me was the first fall on their face screw up.
I agree. I 100% agree.
And I think they have stronger movies and weaker movies, but that was the first one I out and out like wish they hadn't made.
It's not something I need to go back and watch it. I feel like I love to watch those. I don't know if I need to see it again.
I'm probably not buying that. I'll tell you the main reason is because here was an opportunity to really do a movie that looked like Jack Kirby's artwork.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And where all the other Marvel characters that Jack had a lot of influence with or creation, Captain America and so on and so forth. Yeah. When he did those, his style wasn't fully formed in the sense that we know Kirby, today. By the time he hit the Eternals, he was full on squiggles and Kirby dots and all the really idiosyncratic things of that made Jack, and all the designs in it. And if you think of the way Jack designed spaceships, and then the movie had something that looked like the 2001 Monolith, it was a black rectangle. And where's that cool Kirby ship with all the weird shapes and pipes on it, and then the lead character is really a traitor, and so that was kind of like.
I mean, can we talk spoilers for a minute about? I mean, I think people who want to see it have seen it already. I think.
Well,
but you're right.
I shouldn't have said that, and I'm sorry, but that really, boy, that cheesed me off. That was that. So on and on. Too many characters, and
correct. That was the thing. They introduced too many characters, and again, we don't have to go deep into it, but like you said, the traitor part of it, and then what happened to so many characters that they introduced over the course of the movie. And like, I have an 8-year-old for whatever reason, my 8-year-old son, maybe it was a hit. He loves the Eternals. Like, I can tell you right now, his wish to Santa is to have all the Marvel Legend Eternal figures. I think Santa's going to come through with that one, but like, I'm like, dude, they don't all survive. What's the play value?
Well, that's a problem, but really, number one at the heart of it, like, here was the opportunity to make a movie that really celebrated the artistic style of Jack Kirby.
Yes.
And Thor Ragnarok had a lot of great things in it that evoked Kirby.
Yeah.
Like when you got to the Collector's Tower, it had like Jack Kirby wallpaper and things. And this movie, it treated it like they were ashamed of the source material. And that's how I feel a lot of where the DC stuff stumbles is you're really ashamed that Superman's such a nice altruistic guy. So you're going to make him a jerk, kind of thing. Maybe you shouldn't be doing this. And so, I mean, I knew Marvel was on such a roll that it would happen eventually, but God, I wish it weren't a Jack Kirby book, Yeah. And I really hope they pull out of that nosedive, and feel like they've earned that, but oh man, it was really heartbreaking. I mean,
and we knew that day was going to come at some point.
Yeah, anyway. It's inevitable. When you're also making like 20 movies at the same time, but
and kind of with our holiday theme, let's talk about Hawkeye for a minute, and we won't go deep into Hawkeye.
I've only seen two. I've only seen the first two.
I've only seen the first two as well. And again, nice holiday show. But let me ask you your opinion. Working in the business and again, just churning out this material. Now, so far, those first 2 episodes of Hawkeye, they've been great. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I didn't love, I didn't hate. Loki, same thing. Loved WandaVision. Thought WandaVision was really great. What If, I think, was a phenomenal series.
Yeah, mind blowing. Yeah,
a lot of people loved What If, but like, what I'm wondering, your opinion on this is that Marvel and Disney are churning out so much of the Marvel stuff, because now, before we looked forward to like those 2 or 3 times a year that there was a movie. So now, not only getting these movies, but like you need to watch Hawkeye, you need to watch WandaVision, and I'm wondering, like, and is it too much now? Is it an overkill?
At some point, it's just things will collapse under their own weight. I want to think that they will learn from the missteps. I think they've got a really smart, talented team.
Absolutely.
And when something goes a little off the rails, as in my opinion this one did, that they will understand that and not double down. And in the way I feel like DC makes a bad move, and then they double down on it.
And then they do another bad move. Like, why not?
Well, they like, oh God, we're gonna get. Oh, you didn't like so and so's Batman. Where do you see Robert Pattinson as Batman?
Exactly. Right.
The guy can't even make eye contact in a scene. And he has little teeth. Whatever. But I just, wow, that's it. Man, you found a deal breaker for me, and I don't know what's going on. I think Feige can recover. The Doctor Strange movie looks really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm really curious what they're going to do with Black Panther, obviously.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of delays and stuff like that. I mean, next week we have Spider-Man, and I'm curious to see what that's going to be. Like, they just came out over the course of the last week. He said Charlie Cox is Daredevil.
Yeah.
So does that? I mean, that's coming out at a pretty good time. Does that mean Charlie Cox is showing up in Hawkeye or Spider-Man? My guess is
I don't know about that, but I think it shows some good intent on Feige's part, that he's cherry picking things out of those Netflix shows that weren't perfect, but they had some good things going for them.
Well, then, and again, from what we know about this new Spider-Man movie, I mean, the cat's out of the bag on some of the characters in there, not everybody. But I mean, listen, I'm gonna guess that the thing everybody's figuring is going to happen is probably going to happen in this movie. They're just really
the other 2 guys.
I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. Yeah. I mean, I think
that'll be interesting. I have a funny little bit of trivia for you.
Okay.
I actually got to go back to Disneyland for the first time in a year and a half. Nice. And I was going around with a cast member friend of mine. And in the new Marvel area in California Adventure, they have these robots that are stunt robots. So you'll see Spider-Man flip in the air and then do a pose and blah, 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 land in the net. That's not a guy. That's a robot. It's a stunt. It's specially weighted and mechanized and things to hit a pose and do something and land. It's not really a guy in there. So anyway, the fun part is they have 3 of them because, they need backups and they require a lot of maintenance and things like that. And the actual mechanical Spider-Mans are named. They have names, and it's Toby and Andrew and Tom.
That's so funny.
So in the maintenance, like, that's the hook they go on. That's on, whatever. So I thought that was really funny.
So you're saying, even when he lands and goes behind a thing, when he pops out,
you see an actor kind of do some stuff.
Gotcha.
And then it goes off screen, and then you see a figure swing through the air and do a flip. That's the robot part.
That's crazy.
So in stunt terminology, it's called a Texas switch, where the real actor falls out of frame and the stuntman pops back into frame, or vice versa.
Wow, that's cool. Now, did you get to see the mechanics of this, or they didn't bring you up there?
I just saw the show, but
Nice.
apparently has a lot of different poses and things.
Wow, I'll have to go watch some of the video, and folks, you can watch that all on there. But going back to Kevin Feige.
Give 1 second. 1 moment, please. Okay. Hey, you guys. The dogs are going to bark. Hang on a second. Are you guys okay? All right. Okay.
But mentioning Andrew and Toby and all these other guys, they also just said now, apparently Fantastic. He's saying that the multiverse exists and the Fantastic Four and X-Men movies part of this multiverse. So I'm like you said,
strange anything from those X-Men movies. There should be a restraining order against the human race and every X-Men movie that's ever been filmed and every actor in them. We do not need that.
Well, there was a rumor circulating that Hugh Jackman was visiting the set of Doctor Strange, so
that's fine. But listen, they can get Doug Jones to play the Silver Surfer, and the rest was the only visual thing that worked out of any of those movies, and hopefully Kevin knows the level of ire, So anyway, I have my choice for Reed and Sue are if you've seen Star Trek Discovery, if you've seen Anson Mount as Pike,
yeah,
and then another, and he looks like a Jack Kirby drawing if you put the drawings of Reed next to him, and then Alice Eve, who was Marcus in one of the Chris Pine Star Trek movies in her underwear that won, she'd make a really good Sue. So
that's interesting.
A couple of Star Trek guys.
Do we bring back Chris?
Ben remains very difficult for me.
Which one?
Ben Grimm remains very difficult for me to cast, and like Michael Rooker or something. And as long as the Human Torch is like 16, as long as he's like a high school kid. Well, no, he's got to be a high school kid. Yeah. He's a contemporary of Peter Parker's, and
you're right.
And Chris Evans obviously made the hell of a Captain America, but
great.
He's like a teenager. He's supposed to be impetuous and a kid with that power, and he just can't help himself. He's hormonal. But when an adult's not listening and flying off the handle, he looks like a jerk. Yeah. So.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens next week with the Spider-Man movie, and then we'll see in 3 months when Doctor Strange comes out.
I haven't gone like, all right, I'm done with you after Eternals, but I was kind of like that when a long time ago, as the biggest Star Wars fan in the world, and I saw the first 2 movies like 100 times or something, and I saw Return of the Jedi a long time ago, and I saw Return of the Jedi in 1983, and I was like, all right, goodbye Star Wars. And I saw it once in the theater, and I've seen all the subsequent movies one time.
So. Oh wow! But again, you're talking about a fluke of, and a fluke and a flop, if you will. So they did the prequel trilogy, and people either loved it or hated it, right? Yeah. I think people didn't like episode 1. Episode 2 and 3, people can stomach more. Little boy Anakin was hard, and Jar Jar Binks, I get it. Then the new trilogy came out, and everybody who hated the prequel trilogy all of a sudden's like, you know what? Those movies were awesome. They were not that bad. And I mean, listen. And it's a business, and people have their takes and stuff. You saw the prequels. Force Awakens was its one thing. Yeah. Last Jedi, they went into a whole different area. Like, is that really how we wanted to see Luke and them? I don't know. and then they tried to fix it, but it was like too little, too late by the time the third one came out. But now what Disney's doing is they're saving their butt by all these Netflix, but not all these Disney Plus shows.
Yeah. Well, that's because Favreau and Filoni are good story guys and love Star Wars, but love the good ones. If we're going to deep geek about Star Wars for 2 minutes, what the big mistake of the last 3 films was they didn't plan it as 3 films. They did one, and then they handed off to another guy who didn't like the first one, so he undermined it. And then it went back to the original guy who undermined it. And what you have to do is like Lord of the Rings. You have to say it's a 3-movie story. One guy directs it, one guy writes it, and it has a beginning, middle, and end. Yep. And the irony of that is that's exactly what Lucas did with the prequel trilogy. It just wasn't a good story, but at least structurally and plan-wise, he did something that neither of the other trilogies do, because I feel like Star Wars and Empire feel like the first 2/3 of something, and Jedi feels like a contractual obligation and a toy commercial, and really dropping the ball on a climax where at least the prequel trilogy has a structural integrity that the other 2 don't. But you hit on the thing I really especially don't like about the new ones is they're desperately trying to get me to like their characters. They're Rey and Finn and Poe and BB-8 and all that. And I do like them. I do think they're likable characters and actors, and I don't buy into the Mary Sue thing. I like Rey quite a bit. However, when you take Han, Luke, and Leia, my heroes, the ones I grew up with,
legacy characters,
and you ruin their lives, you stick Luke, give Luke a miserable life on a as a hermit. You break up Han and Leia, and they're miserable still. He's still a smuggler. She's still fighting a war. Their kid is a nut. Their kid kills dad. So in my mind, they want me to love their characters while crapping on my characters. And I am not going to buy into that. Like if you treated them with any kind of respect, the characters that the entire thing was built on top of, if you don't treat them with respect, how am I supposed to respect your new guys?
Yeah.
And how do you want me to love this thing or not? Well, I'm not going to love it. And Disney built a giant, beautiful Star Wars area in Disneyland. It's all based on the new stuff. And Kylo Ren's walking around. I'm saying, where's freaking Darth Vader? And 2 major attractions, and they're beautifully made. Rise of the Resistance is
crazy. I did the one in Florida.
It's the height of the Imagineering art form. Yeah. But wouldn't it have been better if it were Darth Vader and all those guys? Yeah. So I feel emotionally connected to them. And so I was just enjoying the experience, but it's like they're just, and I know actors age, but they're just sweeping them under the rug, the legacy characters. And I just, the whole area is built on that, and you can't give me a little of, mine.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and I think Mark Hamill had even commented about it. Like, I think he was and he was open about it. He was disappointed about the way Luke went in that second film. And I mean, unfortunately, things happened with Carrie Fisher as they happened. It was out of everybody's control. But I mean, in that first movie, if not the first movie, definitely the second one. Like to have even had a moment just where the 3 of them united. That's all anybody wanted to see.
You couldn't have one scene with those 3 characters and throw the droids and the Wookiee in there. You couldn't do that one thing that everybody wants. Everybody wants. And no, you just kind of had it. And when when Han was just kind of run through by his own kid and falls off the bridge, maybe in the next Indiana Jones, Mutt show up and Machete Indian, he'll fall off a bridge. And he'll say, "Not again," or something.
I'm worried what's going to happen to Indy at the end of this movie, man. I don't know.
I'm a little afraid of that too. But
I think people. But did you? So talking about like these legacy characters, did you see the new Ghostbusters yet? I don't know how many people have, but
yeah, I saw it, and
they handled it right.
I know not to spoil things.
But they handled it right.
I think they paid the right respect to it.
And they gave everybody what they wanted.
Yeah. What I think it lacked was the original movie is hilariously funny, top to bottom. Yes. Gut-bustingly funny. And this wasn't. Because you don't have Bill Murray in the middle of every scene making you laugh your ass off. And to me, so they got half of Ghostbusters right. So they had a pretty good plot. I thought it tied into the original. I thought they handled things well with the legacy things. That's all I'll say.
It was definitely kind of like Force Awakens, right? In a sense.
I felt it was affectionate and respectful and all that. But when I go see a Ghostbusters movie, I want it to be funny as hell. I want to fall over laughing. And I think that's it needed a really good comedy pass. They should have really utilized Paul Rudd better comedically, because that guy's funny as hell, and it seems to me it's not like they're not funny guys. It just wasn't, in my opinion, a priority for that film to be really funny. And actually the all-female one was actually kind of funny. I thought it where it failed was, why, if you're a reboot, why do you keep reminding me of the original movie by having everybody that was in the original movie in it, reminding me that you're like doing a Ghostbusters movie, but they never existed. And it's like, pick a lane, kind of thing. Yeah. And I don't like hate that movie like everyone else does, but I was like, you're also kind of like saying the original never happened. I'm not a big fan of that, So I loved it, and I'm back because I loved it, and you're telling me it never happened. I'm not a fan of that. And the new one at least was saying like, yeah, the original one happened. So,
I think the new one definitely left it open. I think there'll be more Ghostbusters.
Could be. I just wanted to be funny. Just make me laugh.
Yeah.
Get great comedy writers, do a comedy pass, get great improvers. That was the thing about the girl one. They're all good improvers.
Yeah.
So there was something, something there. I thought it was okay. I didn't hate it or love it, but I appreciated that they were trying to at least be funny,
Yeah, and I'm since we're talking about the female one too, like I'm a firm believer that they could do like an edit of what exists in that movie, right? Maybe cut a couple of scenes, reshoot maybe like 15 minutes worth of scenes, and they could tie that could, at this point now it's a moot point because of Afterlife, but they could edit like 15 minutes of new footage and make that into a continuation of the original film, without a doubt. They have the bust of Harold Ramis there, and that's fine. They can definitely have the bust of Egon around. Like the scene with Bill Murray, that could definitely be Venkman being skeptical. Does he need to die? Not necessarily, but and then Dan Aykroyd could have his scene re-edit that. I think the idea, which kind of a little bit of similarities, but I think the end with Ernie Hudson, playing I can't think of the actress's name.
Her dad, or her uncle.
Yeah, exactly.
Leslie Jones's uncle.
Leslie Jones. That could easily be Winston, 100%.
Yeah. I don't think it's the car wreck everyone else seems to think it is, and there was another one, like I thought the last Terminator movie, people really hate that. And I was like, I don't know, it's my third favorite Terminator movie. You know, and I could jump from T2 and skip 3 or 4 of them and go right to Dark Fate and kind of be okay with that as a trilogy, you know.
Well, I think with the Ghostbuster thing, and even with those, you know, I think people were just upset because it's not what they wanted.
Yeah,
you know, people were clear, this is what we want, and they said, no, we're going to give you this. You know,
but I'll tell you, you know, like I mentioned, my disappointment with Star Wars after the first 2 movies. I might have said this on our previous chat. The Mandalorian is spectacular to me.
Yes.
You know, it not only feels like a real love letter to the first film specifically, but to Ralph McQuarrie, who designed the first film. And it feels like it's tapping into not only Star Wars, the initial Star Wars, but the influences that made that movie. So you're getting your spaghetti Western, you're getting your samurai movie, and those things that were never really referenced again as the series progressed. And that's me, the heart of it, you know.
I'm looking forward to Boba.
Part of what I like about it personally. So it's funny to me that they're going to have a Boba Fett show. So they have 2 shows about guys wearing buckets, you know, on their head. It's kind of funny.
But I like what you said too about the McQuarrie thing, because you look at like those like title cards, those art cards that they have during the credits.
Yeah. Well, they're using a lot of in the body of the show. They're using a lot of McQuarrie designs that weren't used for the original movie. So they're really using him as a posthumous production designer, because for everything he designed that made it into the movie, there were 10 things that didn't. So Filoni and Favreau are like cherry picking all these really great things, and so McQuarrie's contributing as much to that as he did the original films, and that's really special to me, you know.
That's the thing, is they have the world's biggest toy box really available to them, and that's like you said, Filoni and Favreau. You know, they were like us; they were playing with the toys back then, you know, and now it's like here's the toys. Right. Make your move.
Wasn't it funny? It was funny they put that troop transport in.
Yeah.
They had a stormtrooper troop transport that was a Kenner toy. It only existed as a Kenner toy, and they just like threw it in there, and it looked really good. You know, it worked. But a friend of mine did. He worked on the Obi-Wan series. And he said the writing is spectacularly good. And he was showing me pictures of the volume, the big cyclorama of like little LEDs, which is how they do the virtual sets now. And it's kind of like I am like not informed about this, but they did things in filming Mandalorian that are going to completely rewrite the way movies are made. As far as set construction going, they'll build virtual sets, and the camera can move around in them in perspective, and the lighting bounces off the characters correctly and everything, because it's not like a green screen matted in; it's literally a projection behind them.
Jeez.
And if you move the camera, that perspective will shift accordingly. So it's not like you're looking at a flat thing.
Yeah.
Man.
I'm super excited for Obi-Wan. I think that's gonna be awesome. And people love Ewan McGregor. Like,
he's dynamite. It's going to be a redemption for those early films where, boy, you know, like all those great actors were boring in that film because of the way they were written and directed. You had Sam Jackson and Ewan McGregor. You had Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
You had Liam Neeson. Had all these great actors, and none of them have like a memorable scene or like that a really good juicy moment that you can quote. They're just very stoic and kind of reciting their lines. And
I think some of the Liam Neeson again, he was lost in that first movie. Natalie Portman, but I have to say, like, going back and watching those movies again and again, like, I think, and again, people are judgmental of Hayden Christensen, but I think there are some fun lines between him and Ewan McGregor, like that, like when they're tied up in that arena. I think that's funny. I mean, certainly, and it's not a humorous scene, but that whole battle at the end of episode 3, the Obi-Wan Anakin battle, I think that's you were the chosen one. Like, I mean, there's some like strong
some stuff in there. Well, even my criticism of Jedi, I thought the stuff that really worked was the Luke Vader Emperor stuff. I thought it worked really well. One thing very consistent. The Luke Vader Emperor stuff in the end of Return of the Jedi works great. In a movie, I think is really a bad movie, but the one consistency is Ian McDormand as Palpatine is always great. Like in every scene, in every movie, even if it's a bad movie, he kicks ass, like every time. And he's great as the subtle old corrupt senator, and he's great as the crazy ass Palpatine, and he always brings it.
And again, that's I guess that's one thing that they've been for. Talk about legacy characters. I guess you would call the Emperor a legacy character, right?
100%.
And I mean, so maybe he's the only one, even a little questionable in episode 9, but they did him justice because he's consistent through all the movies, right?
Yeah.
With the same actor.
Yeah. Well, this Christmas talk is going really well.
No, listen, and
I didn't have a lot to say about it. This is
but we had fun. We had fun, and it went into a cool other conversation, which was great. Listen, that's why we like having you here, because we can have so much fun. We can hit so many different things. That's the beauty of this.
Well, thank you. Yeah, well,
so you're one of our favorite here.
Well, thank you.
No, but that's good. And the best part of tonight is we get to see you. We get to see you tonight. So the mysterious Televisions Lance Falk. Televisions Lance.
Oh, I'm finally going to get that credit. I've been trying to get the credit for decades, and I'm pretty sure Solar Opposites will have that credit, and nice. Rick and Morty will have that credit. I'm like, yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's like Star-Lord, in the beginning of the movie, and the guy I'm Star-Lord. Who? You're who? And he goes, ugh! And then at the end of the movie, he recognizes him. He's a Star-Lord. He goes, finally. And that's how I feel now.
Are you going to have to change your IMDb page?
That's a possibility.
So
I have a perverse affection for that stupid idea.
I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea. My friend, it is always good to have you with us here.
Thank you. Thank you. Likewise.
So,
we'll find a subject I'm a little more conversant in the future. Like when you get me talking about Johnny Quest, I won't shut up. So,
but we will tell everybody, and but maybe we can come back and do Johnny Quest again, because now you can maybe even show us some of the cool stuff that you have in your collection there. That's
here, right. Right within arm's reach, I have a little Christmas ornament.
I have that in my tree. Where's the pterodactyl?
Pterodactyl is over here somewhere. He's here. I have this really good cold cast bandit.
Oh,
who's really on model.
That's really great.
And it's like stone. And wait 1 second.
Oh, folks. Dun, dun. Oh, there we go. Hold on, let me give you the full screen for that one.
So
look at that. That's cool.
So
that is neat.
Yeah. So just a little welded together, a ball welded to 4 legs.
Well, we're going to have to come back and now visually see these things. And I guess we could tell everybody, go back to on YouTube and on Facebook. You can watch the last year when we had Lance on, and we did 2 shows about Johnny Quest. We talked a little bit about the history, and then we talked about the development and the production of the real adventures of Johnny Quest, which is what Lance had worked on, and even the Tom and Jerry flick, which was fun. Spy Quest. So I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. So do that, and guys, go out and buy SWAT Cats and the Real Adventures of Johnny Quest. They're available. You can get them on Amazon. They're out there. The DVDs. Get those.
Well, I mean, listen, buy the real Johnny Quest show. The
original. The stuff that you were on.
I'm on there too, but I didn't work on it. I was an infant when they made that show. But I mean, those are the best cartoons ever made. They're beautifully.
And you're on the features.
Yeah, I'm on the special features, but they're restored beautifully. They sound great. They look great. The credits are restored. They're uncensored. The previous versions had a little bit of censorship.
There you go.
So if you want to see the best animated adventure cartoon, in my opinion, ever made, get that original Johnny Quest. So
and you'll see Lance, like I said. You'll see him in the features. And it's on Blu-ray now too, I think, right? Didn't they do Blu-ray?
It's on Blu-ray, yeah.
There you go. So you can get Johnny Quest on Blu-ray. And then
I gotta say, Hanna-Barbera or Warner Brothers is being pretty good about, they're getting stuff onto Blu-ray bit by bit, like high def, and they're picking the right shows to do it. So they do Flintstones, Jetsons, the original Scooby, Johnny Quest. They just did Herculoids.
All right.
They did Space Ghost, and they look so good. I have to recommend the Space Ghost one because there's a documentary on there about Alex Toth that is so good it could be its own movie.
Oh, wow.
It could be its own DVD, and it's perfectly made, like a real straight up documentary on the guy who designed every Hanna-Barbera adventure show, the 60s, Space Ghost, Herculoids, Arabian Nights, everything except Johnny Quest, and he even designed an episode of Johnny Quest, so he's in there too. Toth, bloody genius. 2 people we've talked about tonight, Ralph McQuarrie and Alex Toth. I was fortunate enough to visit them at their homes at one point.
Oh, wow.
And they're both gone now. But
and you also said Doug Wiley earlier too. So
I'd visit Wildy. He retired. He and his wife retired to Las Vegas, and my mother lived in Las Vegas. So when I was out there, I'd go and see him. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice, cool. Well, so thank you once again, Lance. Like I said, always fun to have you on here. So we'll just hold you tight for a minute while I say goodbye to everybody. Folks, I don't know if we'll be back next week. We might be. I don't know. It's the holidays. We'll see what plays out. But, definitely if you're in the tri-state area here on the East Coast, go to Christmas Con this week in Edison, New Jersey. Joe Ryan, who is watching us tonight, will be there with Michael Grazia and Unique Designs, as well as Paul Castiglia from Archie Comics. They're going to be doing workshops and holiday-themed art projects all weekend with the kids, and a lot of cool celebrities there. So check that out. And Lance, once again, thank you so much, everybody. We will see you very soon here on IncrediChat. Have a good night, folks.
Have a good night.